Hey guys, Drifter here. Welcome to Modern Warfare in Depth. In today's episode, we're going to be reviewing the brand new AS VAL Assault Rifle, which is one of the most powerful weapons in the game and one of the few new weapons that I've had a ton of fun with as soon as it unlocked. You too can unlock it for free by reaching level 31 in the Battle Pass. You don't even need to buy the Battle Pass, so just as soon as you hit level 31 as a free player, it unlocks for you. And as I said before, I think that the VAL is one of the best weapons in Modern Warfare, but only inside of its close quarters niche. Outside of close quarters, it falls apart really hard, but in 6v6 maps, this gun is absolutely dominant. If you play Warzone or Modern Warfare, you can support me by using creator code DRIFTOR. It's down there in the bottom left of the store. You can click on it, type in the code, the O is a 0, and I get a little bit of money for anything that you purchase in-game. So thank you for that if you choose to support me, though that technically makes this video sponsored by Activision. And one more shameless self-shout out before we get started. I did a Raid Shadow Legends stream yesterday with a bonus if I hit a certain number of signups, and I only need like 30 more people to click the link, download the game, and play through the tutorial for me to hit that mega bonus. And let's say that Raid Shadow Legends has the bag that I'm trying to secure. So if you guys want to help me out, just download Raid and play like the tutorial level or whatever with the link. Helps me tremendously, helps me get paid. And with all that out of the way, let's talk about the VAL. The first thing about the VAL is that it's integrally suppressed, or internally suppressed, however you want to say it. That means that it has a built-in suppressor on the barrel. The weapon is always suppressed, and you're kind of getting a free attachment from the get-go, and the most important attachment, since in Warzone and multiplayer, one of the most common attachments is a suppressor. That makes it very strong right off the rip. However, the weapon does have one of the slower muzzle velocities in the entire game. Very few weapons, maybe perhaps some of the XRK barrels on the chainsaw and pistols, can compete with the painfully slow muzzle velocity on the AS VAL, and it really does become very difficult to hit moving enemies outside of about 50 meters. Once they start getting further away, you're going to start seeing some problems. Let's talk about the damage of this weapon. It'll deal 47 damage to the head up close, declining down to 36 damage at long ranges. The chest will be a 37 up close, so about 10 less damage, and 23 at long ranges. And the stomach will be 30 to 23 as well. So I think it's kind of got a minimum cap there at 23. So it's basically a 3-shot kill, chest and up, unless you're hitting stomach or legs, in which case it's going to turn into a 4-shot kill. In my experience, it's most commonly a 3-shot kill weapon because it does have high recoil and it's mostly vertical recoil. So no matter where you start shooting, your gun's going to kind of naturally drift up to the chest and to the head. But speaking of shooting, let's talk about the rate of fire. The AS VAL will fire at 888 rounds per minute, which is quite fast for a high damage weapon and a little bit on the faster side of things for Modern Warfare and Warzone in general. When you do the math on this with the damage and that rate of fire, what you're going to find is that it is one of the fastest killing weapons in the game, with the time to kill at 100 health or base multiplayer being 135 milliseconds, and a time to kill at 250 health, which is a fully armored enemy in Warzone, is 405 seconds. This is extremely fast. I really want to drive that point home today, that this weapon kills incredibly quickly. It kills faster than the MP5, M4, Growl, and even the AN94. In base multiplayer, it's more comparable to getting 2-tapped by the FAL or bursted by the FAMAS. It kills extremely fast, both in regular multiplayer and in Warzone. In Warzone, it absolutely shreds people. And I think that this fast time to kill is the best and most important part of the AS VAL, perhaps even more important than the internal suppressor. And that's kind of all that it has going for it. It has an amazing time to kill, and it has a built-in suppressor, and then pretty much everything else about this gun is horrible, but those are two things that I really value and I can work with quite well. I did want to show you guys this new website called COD Gun Charts. It was made by a Call of Duty fan that's a big fan of in-depth and all the stuff that Ace does. And basically this has every single weapon and attachment in the game, so you can load it up. I've picked the VAL. It'll show you the time to kill, shot to kill, DPS, how many, at 100 or 200 HP, headshots, whatever. And you can compare this to any other weapon in the game and generate a graph. It is an incredibly useful tool. It shows you all the stats, aim down sights, muzzle velocity, meters, move speed, time to kill. You can change this a dozen different ways. It's a really cool website. And that one is linked down there below in the description for all of you stats nerds. If you want to play with that one, it is easily available and linked below. I might shout it out again in a different episode just because it's so useful. The main reason I shouted it out here is so that you can compare all the other guns to the VAL and just see how quickly it kills. But the weapon does have an ammo conversion that increases damage. It effectively turns it into a DMR, a 10-round magazine, and the new damage of the ammo conversion is 100 damage to the head, and that's 100 exactly. It is exactly 100 damage, which means it'll be 3 shots to kill in Warzone, declining down to 73 at long ranges, or the longest range that I was able to test. The chest is 57 to 42, and the stomach is 48 to 35, again at the longest ranges that I can test. So effectively, this is a 1 to 2 shot kill in regular multiplayer. In pretty much any sane range or engagement, you can either one shot somebody to the head or just 2-tap them in the body. However, if you're going to be playing ground war, it can be kind of like 4+ shots because it just starts dealing very, very small amounts of damage at those extreme ranges. And in Warzone, where it's also extreme ranges but even higher health, you can end up needing 8+ shots to kill or almost an entire magazine with this weapon. So I'm pretty sure it's not made for Warzone. The AS VAL with SPP Ammo Conversion rate of fire is 450 rounds per minute, which is kind of fast for a DMR. That's pretty spammy, that's pretty swift. That is not a slow shooting type DMR. And if you want to do the math on this one, the time to kill at 100 HP, assuming no headshots, these are just body shots, is 133 milliseconds, which is still fast. And at 250, it's actually quite slow at 666 milliseconds. For headshots, it's instant in multiplayer, and for Warzone, it's about half of that. One of the other things that I wanted to show off though is that the SPP ammo is currently bugged and lets you shoot through pretty much any number of walls. At least as of recording this video, I've seen Ace make a video about it. I've seen Marksman abusing this one shamelessly. I've seen Tim the Tatman doing stuff with it. I have a feeling that this is not going to last very long. Surely this is going to get patched, and maybe even by the time this guide goes live, it'll be patched. I have to do the guides a few days ahead of time because there's a lot to work on. But as of now, this is a wall-banging machine. It just shoots through anything and everything, any number of walls, any angle, any rocks, solid objects. I'm not aware of anything that won't stop it. I guess maybe shooting through the floor or the bottom of the map. Very, very powerful, and it almost makes me wonder, makes me think that perhaps this ammo conversion wasn't supposed to be a sniper, but more of an anti-camper FAL alternative for regular multiplayer, or maybe an anti-camper weapon just for Warzone to knock people out of those upper buildings, though I haven't had a chance to try that yet, but I suppose that it could work. On the topic of the ammo conversion, a lot of you are probably very curious about what range it will one-shot headshot in, and it is not this first range you're about to see. The range that it actually kills in one-shot headshot is a very sad 29 meters. This is a really, really low range for this kind of weapon. I would have expected it to have much better range, but that's kind of more comparable to like the cowboy rifle or other DMRs in Modern Warfare, and less so to sniper rifles. So in my opinion, sniping with this weapon in ground war or Warzone is harder than just using the crossbow. The crossbow will at least one-shot people. This one can be very, very frustrating. I did not have a very good time with it. The other thing that's frustrating about the weapon, outside of the sniper ammo, is that the default magazine has only 20 rounds in it. It's very small, and especially with how fast it fires, you're going to burn through this very quickly. It's basically kill one person and reload, or you can be one of those guys that thinks they're too cool for school and tries to like kill one person and save, 10 to 12 bullets and hope that you only run into one more enemy before you have to reload. So magazine capacity is tiny. You can only boost it up to 30, so that's not amazing either. And the recoil is somewhat high. I'm not going to lie about that. The recoil is high, but it's mostly vertical recoil, so it doesn't bother me very much, especially given that it's close quarters combat. I don't have to deal with its side-to-side shake too much, but it does become difficult to use at long ranges. The muzzle velocity is more similar to pistols than it is rifles in Modern Warfare. This is one of the few weapons where you're going to start noticing that your bullets are dropping off really hard or trailing off to the side. It's pretty miserable to hit people, not even in the sniper conversion, but just in regular. Surprisingly, I like the iron sights. I think they're quite nice. They're clean, it's easy to track targets, they're not particularly obstructive, I can see people up close and far away. If you like the iron sights, I would tell you not to use any optics because you won't need them for this close range weapon, but if you are going to use optics, pretty much red dot sights are going to be the way to go, but I think these irons are very clean and very easy to use. Alright, so let's talk about the ranges on the barrels, because that can also affect this weapon. The base AS VAL has a 3-shot kill range of 30 meters, which is respectable. That's about normal, maybe a little bit better than normal for assault rifles in this game, so no problems there. The VLK 105mm barrel will decrease it slightly down to 27 meters, an almost imperceptible drop. The Stovl, I cannot say that Russian word, the STOVL barrel will reduce it down to a kind of sad 23 meters. That's enough for you to notice, enough for you to kind of wonder why it's taking so many shots to kill. And the VLK 200 millimeter barrel will give you a very impressive, almost 30% range boost of up to 39 meters. So that's a very impressive range. It's a good range, and I would say it is noticeable. That barrel also will reduce your recoil. The maximum range on the one-shot SPP ammo, even with the longest barrel, is still 29 meters, which is pretty sad. It's not very good. For range purposes, the VLK barrel just wins hands down. But let's talk about aim down sights time as well. The base ADS time for the VAL is 250 milliseconds, which is pretty normal for assault rifles. The VLK 105mm, still 250 milliseconds. I didn't get a measurable change there. If there was a change, it must have been small. The Stovl, the tiny one, is actually really snappy at 200 milliseconds. So if you don't mind the recoil increase, then that's a very attractive option. And the VLK 200mm also doesn't appear to negatively affect recoil, at least not more than a frame that I can measure. That's also 250. The TAC laser, very snappy at 200 milliseconds. The FSS International stock is 200 milliseconds as well. The VLK Strelok stock, which has a lot of awesome benefits to it with strafing speed and stability, and the stock itself has recoil reduction, which is great. It still doesn't seem to hurt your ADS time. It's still 250 milliseconds, and the 30 round mags are again 250 milliseconds, which is a little bit surprising. I think a lot of these values are tiny percentages that are rounding frames. When it comes to the aim down sights time of a few of the weirder attachments, the SPP rounds will drop you down to 216, which is pretty snappy. Stippled, very impressive ADS time improvement at 200 milliseconds, and the absolute lowest I could get is 167. So if you kitted this one fully for speed, it's not very efficient because you could pretty much get there with two different attachments. Sprint out times are pretty normal for an assault rifle. The base is 267 milliseconds. 5 milliwatt laser, a little bit faster, and the stippled barely faster, but it is noticeable and measurable. Nothing special there, and you can't make it too snappy. And when it comes to my opinion on this weapon about its performance in the full auto mode, and I think that's how it's supposed to mostly be used, this is a god gun under about 25 meters. If you are engaging enemies under 25 meters, this is hands down the best gun in the game. It outperforms the MP5, it outperforms the M4, all the Growl, all the AN94, all these popular weapons. It's an actual monster. Because the recoil and muzzle velocity mean nothing up close. The recoil is just perfect to help you get headshots. The muzzle velocity isn't a factor in close quarters engagement. And the only thing that really matters is that super fast time to kill that'll dominate almost everything on the map. Maybe the mag's a little small, but it's still pretty monstrous. In my opinion, you should kit this weapon either for recoil reduction or speed, depending on your skill. If you're really not so comfortable with the kick and the handling of the weapon, go with recoil reduction, play slower. If you're one of the cracked out gods that play in my lobbies, just kit it for speed and hose people. Personally, I try to kind of max min and get a little bit of both. My preferred loadout for this weapon in base multiplayer is to run the VLK Strelok stock, which reduces my recoil and gives me a lot of other nice benefits. I'm going to run the VLK 200 millimeter 200M SOA barrel, the TAC laser, stippled grip, and 30 round mags. This is going to give me a bigger magazine. It's going to reduce my recoil significantly, and I think at the end of the day, I'm still going to come out ahead on aim down sights time, so it turns into pretty much a pure bonus loadout over the base weapon. Increased range too, so I think that is a very strong start. The only problem is that Strelok stock takes forever and a day to unlock. When it comes to the SPP Ammo Conversion, I personally am not going to be using it very much, but I think it's best used as a multiplayer only FAL replacement or maybe an anti-camper weapon. It could easily replace the FAL for base multiplayer, hands down, absolutely. Maybe even more efficient with the right attachments because it's already got a suppressor built into it. And it's pretty beastly if you pair it with the snapshot grenades as an anti-camper weapon. I think it can be extremely effective. I've actually watched Marksman streams where he did some very horrible things to people. However, I really don't think the one-shot mode is the best, especially if that wall pen gets nerfed. If it no longer wall bangs like that, then it's not going to be very strong. I prefer fully automatic, but if I'm going to be running this one in single fire mode, I'm going to be using my FAL replacement class, which is going to be using a red dot sight, the Strelok stock again because it's hard to beat, 10 round mags, sleight of hand because I'm going to be reloading those 10 round mags a lot, and tac laser to speed up my aim down sights time and make my aim a little bit steadier. This class is workable. It's not good, it's not amazing, at least not in my hands, but it is workable, and if you like to wallbang, it's going to be very, very fun at that. Guys, that is all for this episode of In Depth. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that you learned something useful. If you did, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. And if you haven't downloaded Raid Shadow Legends and at least played through the tutorial, I would encourage you to do that. It doesn't really help you at all, but it makes me a lot of money, and I like money, and I don't like lying, so I'm gonna be honest with you on that one. So if you want to do that to help me out, I'd appreciate it. If not, no worries. Thank you all, and subscribe, enjoy the video, all that good stuff. Drifter out.